Hi, Nikki. Hi, Christian. Are you able to hear okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Yes,
Perfect,
this
thank
is a
you.
great setup.
Linda Samansky.
Yeah.
Linda Samansky Susan, I don't know why. Tired.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. I have 5:30. I'm sure you got 5:30 on this May 20th, regular meeting of the Ventura Water Commission. Have roll call, please.
Commissioner Mulligan is absent. Commissioner Savage.
Brendan.
Commissioner Summerford. Commissioner Crawford.
Here.
Chair Ronnie.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any public speakers that would like to talk to us about items within our purview that are not on the agenda at this time?
Thank you.
Okay, very well. First item of business is the minutes from the last meeting, which I believe was on April 29th. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Mulligan is absent. Commissioner Savage.
Abstained, that was not here.
Commissioner Summerford. Yes. Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes.
Chair Ronnie.
Wasn't here. Two zero two.
So you have two options in this situation. So if, when you actually review the meeting and are comfortable approving, the minutes based on your understanding of what occurred, then you could, vote yes on the motion. Alternatively, we could just, continue this item to the next meeting and allow, for Commissioner Mulligan, to be present.
Mike, did you get a chance to review them?
No, I didn't. I just, thought President was here. I didn't watch the meeting.
I have reviewed them, from what I've been informed of the meeting. I do believe they represent adequately as to what was in the meeting, so I'll go ahead and vote yes.
Your motion passes with 2 ayes and 1 abstaining for no objection.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2. Ventura Water Pier update.
So good evening, commissioners, and this is Stephen from this will be just an informal update tonight. Basically, pre-meeting we have seen over there. So we will pass your status and also the economic puzzle. So, I'll first, maybe really good first on these questions. It is dotted with black on here is complete. So we do still have some work to do down in the ocean, and that will be beginning, ending this month or the beginning of June. We are on track to finish a good portion of the stuff that we ones that may be left, but they will not impact the program itself. So we will be completed by then So, like I mentioned here, we do have a valve that is, when we arrive, sometime in August, parking lot, so we will actually go in and install that in September. They would once the park as, and clean it a little bit more. So it's personal. Again, it's not something that is going to really impact the park operations or take really get footprint. It'll be just like doing maintenance. We are first maintenance. For the onshore pipeline, we have completed everything on Acres Bay from basically the Port District Administration Building out to Schooner. And we're currently making it. So, at this point, we're on schedule to finish pump. And then for the asphalt pump station, I did this presentation. We did receive our bids today. They came over, they came in, their bidder is 35, just under 35.1 million. We were carrying 31.5 million on the project cost for construction. So it is over. And just want to show you a picture. When we started putting that wall there, and you can see over. Yeah, and putting. The other. You can receive our reimbursement design. Increase in the house there. We are due to receive the design this Thursday, and we are in the process of submitting for our coastal development from a full-year. The advanced plant, the annexation was approved by NAPCO. We've also received approval from the local coastal program amendment on the 10th for the coastal commission, so that wants us to go and get a compensation from this, so we get efficient property. We're also looking to award design. It's been delayed, and so after we do go to review the council, we hope to bring this out to them. And we will calendar to that next. Through groundwater, land purchase is in progress. It's starting the appraisal process for that. So making some progress there. The Hawkins amendment actually was delayed, but was approved at the last council meeting, so they are now on board to continue with us. The United contract that we have for modeling of the groundwater was approved by council when we first did it. So everything's starting to sync together. So we can start working on the long-term offset selections. And we're doing a review with DEW. Water just fall on. And so we're saying some of those types of things, just keeping them informed before we do any wall submissions with them. And then on the other permits, we did submit our 1211 discharge. Waiting to hear back the state board on the hearing date. We've submitted it a month ago or so, so we're going to check in with them and see if they have anything, if we can get any particular dates at this point. And we're also working on ways of discharge for the fall. We're planning on submitting it to the original board in July. We will do it until October. This year, but again, we're getting this extra time to comment and just Bill Davis where they need to add additional claims, so that's in the works. Upcoming council actions, We did, during the Hawkins groundwater. Coming up tomorrow, we plan on amending site specific. They are the folks who are working in community development to process solar development, take the permits. This is a time extension only. We'll also be amending the owners advisor contract. This is actually trying to also do that money contract, so we're just going to extend in time. For June, this is actually going to be all on June 5th. The June 11th meeting, and moving it forward to June 4th, basically everything all us have pushed to June 25th. So there will be a rate discussion, which we'll be talking about what we're going to hear next week. Council wanted to hear that before they were willing to move forward with the other plans. So we're also planning on taking the pump station contractor and engineering services for construction at that time. We have selected a construction manager for the projects that are going on our information plan. So they'll be talking about fall and NPR plans. And then we'll look to take the advanced plan design back on June 25th, and then also this plans. I'm going to give you a recommendation, but this is actually a file of receipt. I'm happy to take any questions.
Is there any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Mr. Schellenberg. Park.
I have a question. What's the role of nurse advisor contract?
So they are on board to help us out. They are our technical advisors, and they also do for staffing. So they follow a lot of scheduling, and one of them produce for us to keep track of the costs and those types of things. But they want to help us with technical things like what's the end of the so. Okay.
Commissioner Savage.
And I have no comments. I've been following it. I recently did a lot of homework on it.
Okay. Commissioner Ackerman.
Okay, a couple questions. Where's the pump going to be placed for the outfall?
So we're-
The pump for the outfall?
The pump for the alcohol will actually be at the reclamation plant.
Okay. Then my next question is, do Reclamation and Water Pier share that outfall line that stops there abruptly? And I'm wondering if there's still anything that comes from Ventura Water Pier that goes into outfall, or is it all from Ventura Water Reclamation?
Yeah, in the reclamation plant, the waste stream from the advanced water purification plant has to go across the street to the pump station. And we're probably going to get a site over the reclamation site.
Okay, I had one more question about, Hopkins groundwater, amended, what's Hopkins groundwater?
They're the ones that they are using to help us with all of the. They've been doing work on this project since the inception, and they're also, yes, service to that mature water.
Thank you, Linda.
I have two questions that have to do with your PowerPoint presentation in regards to what does CMARS stand for?
Construction manager at risk. So that is basically equates to contractor.
And there was another one in there that said 1211 change of discharge. I assume that the 1211 is a form number?
It is a certain format that is the name associated with that permit.
Correct. Okay.
Chair, like it's a section in the California Water Code. That's for And it's any time you use or change, modify a discharge location, you need to get a permit from the state water resources control board to do that. So the city, we previously did that, started the recycled water program. No previous recycled water program, and so we're applying for one for the change in the version for this project as well.
Okay. I'd just like to try to keep in your head again, and let's try and stay with Jordan. Let's have a key or whatever, because we do have members of the public that are interested in this, want to follow through. I want to make sure that they can understand it. Not everyone swims in this every day. And so let's try and just be aware of that. Keep that in mind. Going forward. Other than that, I have no other comments for it this time. Thank you. That, let's move on to number 3, annual water wastewater rate check-in fiscal year 23-24 plan results.
Having a little bit of a hard time hearing on the Teams channel. I don't know if there's a way to turn off noise suppression on the mic or anything. It's coming in a little spotty.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Water question and cost results. Presentation, you see that? Do you have our next slide?
I don't know.
Oh, fine. Okay, kind of fun. So goals tonight, we're gonna look at long-term rate projections. So last time we were here last month, we looked at drivers, directionality compared to last year's check-in, raised it, and we received all the results. We'll receive your feedback based on the presentation tonight. And in this step, recommending that we begin a new rate study, which will be 1 year beginning with this 2024. So we'll start where we left off last time, high level cost pressures on the water. Using control the capital costs, you can see here, funds, reduce grant funding for the project. Water supply and water demands, rate study, increases in water supply costs you see here. Modest reductions in projected future water demand, as well as phasing of D costs. And then, as we discussed last meeting, elevated inflation across the board, both on operating costs and CARE. This is a slide that we presented last month as well. Again, we want to address the elephant in the room, which is the cost increases through the control projects that disproportionately hits the wastewater utility. You see the financial and the rate projection results tonight. What we're showing here is the capital projects related to Metro Water and the economy. So Metro Water here listed first, and then MDR separately. We follow across the columns. What we have is the prior year update. That's where we were this time last year versus our most up-to-date cost estimates. All in all, Metro Water Care estimated $2 last year, about $383 million this year, $1 million instead. And then MDR estimated $143 million last year. 280. So this finds its way into financing scheme. Financing based on prior year updation on the left and current estimate on the right. So the gist here is grants have gone down, costs have gone up, or these come from alternative sources, which is predominantly through additional external borrowing through. We're going to turn to our financial plan. Projection. I want to add in this flow chart here. Few commissioners that participated in the primary rate study, and just to lay out when we talk about moving on financial long-term funds.
So from on the left, all of our inputs, everything from customer accounts, meter side, bill, water use, any other revenue streams. Pretty much is operating expenses and projections on those. Our capital program, both Metro Pure and non-Metro Pure, and rating cash positions with the cash on hand for utilities. Then we have our fiscal policy targets, so we have policies on how much cash on hand, for cash flow, for emergency situations, risk mitigation, and then we have debt service coverage as well. So minimums, minimum coverage ratios that we have to maintain as a condition for external. Funding, you saw on the prior slide, can be a mix from cash to grants to external borrowing. And those, again, will have their own debt covenants, so requirements that we have to maintain net revenues, that's gross revenues, less our operating expenses on any external borrowing. So that all goes into analyzing 10-year cash flow. And that cash flow tells us if our existing revenues are sufficient, do we need to increase the overall investment rates to be able to fully fund the service, including operating capital costs, debt service. So that's the last step there, annual revenue requirement. That's jargon for annual rate revenue increases. So the gross increases. And that's what you're going to see tonight. The projected gross increases. A couple of pieces that we have stated, they will be, this is our projected water demands. This should be the same, exactly the same as presented last month. Again, water demand is updated based on prior year actuals, estimated water use for this year, and projections based on the updated CW water. Now, the reason I show this again is because next slide we translate that into sources of supply and the volumes of water sources and uses. We've updated that with latest and greatest information as far as projecting where our water comes from, what sources, and the associated costs. The key here is we have one set of assumptions in 2024, prior update of what those supply, pumping, and purchasing costs would be, and then in 2023, updating this year. So the gist here is, with the exception of fiscal year 2027, we have increasing pressure, both in the early years and the later years, predominantly due to increases in contracts from the Conservation Water District, as well as fee rates and minimum take requirements from PCs. So now we'll turn to the financial plans themselves, what we developed with staff and cities financial advisors. Our four options that you'll see tonight. They're all based on updated utility financial plans. So what you saw set back on the motion. Everything is now treated, able to evaluate what the future is. Option 1 and 2 are. Option 1 says, what's the world with our existing grant funding for Metro Pure and all our other cost reduction, revenues from basic water demands and meter connections for future operating costs, for future capital program. Based again on existing grant assumptions. Option 2 is the optimistic grant funding, so we have a lot of money outstanding. Being awarded for the project, but not certain. And so that sets our other bucket high and existing and optimistic grant funding. And then within there, we have two alternatives. And one is to see what happens if we update customer rates a year early. We take some rate pressure, we smooth what would otherwise happen 2 years or 3 years, 4. How might that change the year? Then the last option, and NHA, the city's financial advisors, had a little bit of structuring debt alternatives, a bit like would be a structuring where we have the ability to capitalize or not capitalize interest and defer principal repayment. They've done their work on looking at alternative debt structuring for additional debt that would be required for Metro Pure and to some degree. Those are our four options. You're gonna see them in the consistent between. I may describe this as in prior slide, but just to hammer on the existing grant funding, again, updated financials for both enterprises, including our updated internal capital costs and grant funding assumptions of $20 million in total. The optimistic grant funding, the other end of that bucket, is $120 million. Updating rates early, what that means is updating the 5th year of the current cycle, which is fiscal year 2026, that being in July. Next summer. And then the alternative debt structure, again, it uses deferral of payment in case it's capitalized interest, so that we can reduce the cash needs of the utilities in the early days, years in this case, and cash need recovery. Here, I think Christian.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Great. And I apologize if I'm a little slow on the uptake. I can hear perfectly fine when someone at the table to the right of this camera speaks, but I have trouble hearing from the podium. So my apologies if I'm slow on the uptake there. So what you see on the screen here is a amortization under a level annual repayment assumption for each of the series that are planned, both for the future debt, Ventura Water Pier and non-Ventura Water Pier. The example chart you're seeing is the water fund slide. The gray series at the very bottom, that is existing outstanding bond debt. The yellow series is the current WIFIA loan debt service, and then you can see all the other layers on that, we'll call it a layer cake, are stacked up on top of that. And you could see the impact is that it steps down in fiscal year 2045. You can see where the total aggregate is just about a little over 20 million and then steps down to about 16 million. Thank you. This structure illustrates the alternative, which Kevin was referring to, which is a little bit of, in the bond parlance, we like to call it a wrap structure, but what it is it's a structure for each series that looks at the whole. What's the whole debt service picture look like? And so it kind of, sometimes you're deferring a little bit, sometimes you're moving a little bit forward, but you're going for a level aggregate on the whole. And so if we flip back to the last slide and then flip forward to this, you'll see that the structure shifts back basically. And it provides a little bit of capacity on the front end. And so it relieves a little bit of the rate pressure. This scenario for both funds assumes that there is a WIFIA loan, that a second series of WIFIA loans to bring the total WIFIA portion back up to the 49% of costs. And one of the reasons behind that is just the flexibility that the WIFIA loan program provides with structuring. And so I know there's a couple of green series in this chart, but the lighter green series, where you see in the last 5 years those tall green bars and then the smaller green bars of the same color up front, that's the series that represents that second WIFIA loan for the water fund in this scenario. And the last thing I'll say is that this just allows a little more time to build up capacity to cover $20 million of annual debt service. And yeah, with that, I'll hand it back to Kevin.
Thank you, Christian. So looking at some more of the details of it, but again, grants, good option to update grades early. The details here is the same review. Inputs is grants, borrowing, if that's the standard annual debt service for this grant. tenant structure. So here are the results for water. Again, what I showed you here is a 10-year look. Fiscal year 2026 through 2035. So we've got a new 10-year horizon to make sure we see everything that goes out 10 years. Again, we're talking water. See is in fiscal year 26, all are 7% with the exception of updated rates early, and that's because that's year 5 of the existing structure. Not for extended. So fiscal year 2026, 7% for all but the updated early option. Then you see them diverge in fiscal year 2027. So with the existing grants and kind of our base update from prior year and from rate study, 7% year rates, and then we're going to have a series of 12% increases required in years 1, 2, and 3 of the next rate cycle before heading back down to 6% and 5%. Optimistic grants, what you see happen there is that next cycle, those first 3 years would be 9.5% rather than 12%, and then again stepping down over time. Updating rates early, we want to see, in this case, how much pressure we can take off those 3 years of 12s. We're going to update a year early. We're still in double digits, unfortunately, 10.5%. 4 years, and then stepping down again to the long-term 5 or 6% range. And then alternative debt structuring allows us to shave off another 0.5%. So from the optimistic options, that represents the lowest near-term need at 9% per year for years 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the next cycle, and 8% in year 5. We step down again. So cumulatively, we end up at about the same place. Right? It's over the long term, same kind of cost. It's just can we spread it more evenly, more smoothly, and try to take pressure off a little bit. Otherwise, be sharper increases in the first couple of years. We end up in a similar place after 10 years, but really what we're trying to do, again, is smooth as best we can in those first few years. We'll see that more slowly. So those are the overall increases in rate revenues. Now, what we have at the bottom table is just looking at a typical customer bill. This doesn't involve any cost of service updates or any rate restructure that might entertain in the next rate study. But if we simply take our existing rates, existing typical customer, which is a 3.2 meter and water consumed each month, and project out our bills. You see that in 2026, that bill is $66.15. That's a 7% increase, and we're projecting it out the 10 years. The last one is going to show you the total increase over that 10 years. Again, the difference here is really the most optimistic option, $56 increase. It's pessimistic based on existing grants of $61. So really only about a $5 difference between what we look at on water and this is a lot. So if there are any clarifications that can be made. The next series of slides are really listed in the 2 indicators that we care about most, which is cash and coverage. So we need to be able to maintain working capital, minimum reserves, able to execute everything from just paying our typical operating bills to future capital cash needed for issues. And then on the left is our bond coverage. So again, as a function or condition of borrowing, we need to maintain a certain coverage ratio. And that coverage ratio is a function of the amount of debt that we borrow and the net revenues that we generate. So those are gross revenues, rates, some other sources, and non-rate revenues that we count to, less of operating expenses. And so we need to maintain a coverage of 1.25 times that. So for every $1 million in debt service that we have, we need to generate 1.25 million in net revenues. So just to indicate that all of these options have solved for the same thing, get us to the same place over the long term. We're meeting our minimum coverage requirements and we're meeting our reserve as well. I'd like to turn to wastewater, with the same progression, again, the same 4 options. Simply updated based on the portion, wastewater here, the grants, the borrowing, the debt structure, and any amount of cash funding. Wastewater, top table again showing the gross rate revenue increases. So this is in aggregate across the whole customer base, what percentage does it? And in 2026, 6% is your final rate study, that's like last year, that's the same in all. Except for updated rates of. And then fiscal year 27 would be the new, so that's year 1. Next rate cycle, and then again. So the existing grants where we don't look at alternative debt structure or update it early, we're showing that we get coverage and minimum cash is a 32% increase in the first year, 32% in the second year, 12% in the third year. Then the need to spend on the grants, which we have to build up the revenue base so quickly. Now we're back to a 3% increase. The optimal grants, so that's roughly an additional 85. So I think if my math is correct, that being grants, grant awards. And then that first new year of rates would be 24%, followed by the second 24%, 16, 7, and then 7 again. So again. And again, we wanted to look at how much pressure might we take off rates updating a year early. Again, we're trying to smooth this as much as possible. So rather than 2 years of 32%, we will be looking at 3 years, 22%. And then in the alternative debt structuring, again, year 2026 would be the same. We require 4 years, 17%, then 6, and then stepping down to 4%. So again, the story here on wastewater is in all cases, we have a pretty substantial increase in the first 2 or 3 years. And that initial increase of building up the revenue base to be able to support all its additional debt service earlier than we thought, because with less storm payments, metro our bigger costs have increased, means that once we get over that initial point of slamming on the brakes, so to speak, rate increases back to the rate. And then similar to water, we've got the bill, the projected bill, so this is again wastewater pumping and bottom table here, under each of the options. This year 2026, that bill, again, a single family user at a 3/4-inch meter connection is longer, $62.60. The CD increases all the way out. The total bill increase here is a little bit more of a spread on the increase between the bookend options. Still within about $10. Again, over the long term, we end up with about the same revenue base. Projects completed, all debt service is online, and we're really just back to increases in our standard of operating capital. Same series of charts here just to show the results again, what we achieved in the debt service coverage that's shown on the chart on the left. So calculated coverage greater than our minimum, which is net cash line. And then similarly with cash, a couple of these scenarios were under our target until years, and we're trying to take as much pressure off rates as possible. So we're kind of living below the target to some degree. It's for those years they achieve it. Step through these rather quickly because again, we're just trying to communicate minimum performance. So those are the 4 options that we work with staff consultants to do tonight. We're thinking of any other alternatives that we might explore. One of those would be to combine updating rates early with the alternative debt structuring that we described here tonight to see if that can take additional pressure off and how, what that might look like, how much additional pressure. And then just as a reminder, we've been at this for some time in the background and stuff, trying to think through what other alternatives are going to be evaluated. And you see here we looked at the project timing for the AWPF. We looked at allocating or reapportioning the share of internal pure capital between water and wastewater based on allocations. Looked at deferring additional non-pure capital. Looked at adjusting. Explore fields. And we'll get some great projections. Next few slides show some neighboring agencies, regional water and wastewater service providers here of where they're. Story here is that everybody is sharing today. You'll see that wastewater, you're certainly saving those payment at this point, but to a large degree, water and wastewater service providers here are seeing double digit. Here we show water for comparison with Oxford, with Cambria, of Dallas, Cameras, and St. Barbara. When we get to the rate survey, I'll have more caveats, obviously, the caveats here are obvious that every agency is different. Source of supply is in here, city of Thousand Oaks, the it's full for their water, so as Agates Reeds goes, so system size matters, system age matters. Non-rate revenue sources matter. The city of Cambria on the sanitary district has a bit of property tax revenue that helps to provide some revenues for capital that helps keep rates low. So with those caveats, Oxnard recently adopted a new rate, 5-year rate cycle. Excuse me, this is the 4 years this time around. 9.5% in the first year and 1% thereafter. Cambria has an additional increase coming in July. Everything beyond that is simply planned. 1,000 homes, that's the best estimate. And their future increases again, mindful they kind of distinguish between internal cost increases and then through from the water there. Cambria just maybe 5% in the same water. And obviously they raise next month and they're double digits through 2028. And then on wastewater, similar story as agencies compared to Oxnard has a study in progress. It's recently about the stats of them. TBD, so in progress. Cambria again adopted increase throughout the first year. And then plan increases thereafter. They're facing the complete redo of their wastewater treatment plant that dates to the late 50s. So their rates project down for similar, they've got a younger system, relatively affordable rates right now, but they're looking at double-digit increases for the foreseeable future to Cameras and that same position. They're the 9.5 far, but that's after at least the chart. So you saw this rate survey last time around. This is our existing survey, or excuse me, our existing rate survey. So this is fiscal year and fiscal year. You're going to see a progression. Because now what we've done since last meeting is to try and step through as best we can where you want down, and then where relative to years with these forward options. But given a few caveats, the additional caveats would be we project neighboring agencies based on their adopted plan and any planned increases that they have in their own rate studies, and absent any of that information, we project the rates increase at 4% per year, which is fairly conservative when you look at the last 10, 15, 20 years of rate increases, but internationally more like the 5 to 6% mark. So again, any absence of data on these agencies will be projecting at 4% per year. And then what we've got is a breakdown. This is combined bill, this is single family residential, 3/4 inch meter, that means 1 per month. The blue bars, blue portion of the bill showing water service, blue being fixed charge, blue being variable charge, and then for wastewater, yellow, most certainly is, a fixed portion, and then gray being the variable portion. Sim all has some other de minimis fees staff there. The 2024, this is your position. Again, all four of the option years as 9. And then 2025, this is for rates that will be in July 1. 2026, so this is where we start to see the difference between the alternatives, where you see update rates early. Down. And we step through 2027, 2028, 2029. And we end in 2030 because beyond that mark, all alternatives that converge to some. So our last component to this presentation is about customer affordability. It's raised in the last meeting. The affordability of your rates going down to the future. We've done a bit of work in that purpose last meeting to provide some insight. We talked about water and wastewater utility affordability. It refers out of 30 years of EPA guidance, dating back to the mid-90s, about compliance and agencies' abilities to comply with federal mandates. And so this is an evolution that's come from 1997 all the way through guidance that is just updated in March of 2024 with all sorts of different indicators, demographic indicators, residential indicators, financial capabilities for an agency. What we're showing here are some residential indicators. The common one, the one that comes from that guidance, it's used extensively, is based on MHI, that's median household income. The guidance is that the 2% threshold, 2% of median household income is what would constitute a high burden if they were above that for wastewater service. Anything below that, 1 to 2 range is considered a median burden. Below 1% would be considered low burden upon this residential indicator. So that guidance was really for wastewater 2%, but it's become used as a combination of water and wastewater. So 2% for water, 2% for wastewater, 4% for water. So what we're going to show you tonight is based on median household income and lowest quintile income. There's some other indicators that are they require additional effort, additional data, something like the AO20, which kind of takes median household income, breaks it down further. Then we're looking at micro data. We're trying to look at the affordability ratio of households within neighborhoods based on more granular household incomes, considering the cost of living and household housing costs and other essential services costs, etc. So again, tonight what we're looking at is the high level median household income and the LQI lowest quintile. So this chart shows that a few users, a few estimates they can say based on different users. So on the left here is our average user median. So that's 50th percentile of income in venture capital, and our average use 9 HCF per month. See is that burden is about 0.7%. On water, the same wastewater combined 1.3. We think of that as low burden. And in the middle column is essential use. So now we're looking at the lowest quintile, so we're looking at the 20th percentile of income. We're looking at essential, what we consider essential. So again, this is health and sanitation needs, indoor use only, emission levels for, say, a 3-person household. And that is anywhere 1.3% for water, 1.3%. 2.6%. So now we're going to be we're in the low medium range, that 1 to 2% for each service. And then we also wanted to look at the lowest, the 20th percentile but an average use, because often there's a correlation between lower income communities and lower households that are living in potentially older housing stock and have weaker pipes in them. There's, they tend to account holders for the city. And so looking at average use for that 28% percentile, now we see about 1.8% for water, 1.7% of income for wastewater, combined 3.5%. So still under the 2% threshold. And this is, again, based on the existing rates, the existing income, existing water. So there's a lot more, there's different avenues to go with affordability, and these are choosing to think about as we get into the grade cycle, as we start the consideration on those tests, how to define affordability, what you might be able to look at. So projecting affordability, especially based on the increases we've seen tonight, would be important. Looking at the utility-wide financial capability indicator for the utility itself, just make sure that the update is about debt ratio. And looking at household level affordability, so micro data from census, we obviously have estimate billing data, and we can get more granular and identify, do we have specific resources either now or in the future that might be facing affordability challenges, and how widespread might it be now? And similarly to compare our rates of different agencies, looking at comparing affordability of service. So to wrap the meeting presentation, that first point I think made, I just wanted to reiterate from last meeting, which is that higher rates will be required for the projection versus spring check-ins. We might be able to smooth some of those great increases. Combination, earlier adoption, that structuring, and your peers are facing similar challenges both on water and wastewater services. And then we look at that high-level residential indicator, you see the low burden for average users, moderate. Our next steps, first thing we receive your feedback tonight. Incorporate that into the future updates. Present these results as similar presentation to the council, giving feedback on June 5th. That recommendation begin the great study this summer. So, as a recommendation tonight, we received the report. The council to direct staff to initiate a new rate study and select your chair, one commission representative, to speak at the upcoming city council meeting on June 5th. It increases the rating.
Thank you. Start off with, do we have any public speakers that want to?
Well, that presentation. Could you guys slide?
I would like to see on that, the year increase, the cumulative percent increase for all the rates at the end. So if you just look at percentages, it doesn't make any sense to me. We know what Ventura waters are, to give a cumulative. I'd like to see for the jobs, and 1,000 cameras in Santa Barbara, because that would be, gives you the difference between the MDR. Question would be, why has it doubled in the cost over? This cost was a very good cost, but it's an cost has doubled. And that just seemed like a very extreme thing. Maybe it's construction things they have to destroy in the old situation. Roll into that. I don't know what it is.
and I think that's something that should be explained. How are the rate increases computed? Able to have the same percentage increase on both fixed and variable costs? I'm just curious where that's going to go. Are you going to have a different percentage increase for fixed cost versus variable? That's basically the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Very well. There's quite a bit of discussion on this. Does anyone want to start off first?
Chair Rogan, would you like Mr. Foster to address any of Mr. Haley's questions?
Not at this time.
Okay.
No, I don't want to catch staff flat-footed. They need to look at these and be able to consider them. And we'll get you your answers, but I'm going to make them jump on the fly for it. Okay, commissioners, who wants to start?
I have a few questions.
One question I had, thanks, is maybe this has been discussed or mentioned before, but could you let us know, refresh our memory on why did United Water Conservation District's pumping charges increase so much? It's a general answer too. You don't go into.
They just proposed those, we just reviewed that report last week, we're still looking through it, but it appears the primary reason is for additional capital costs. For the next 5 years.
Are those future capital costs or current?
Within the next 5 years.
Okay.
So new costs starting next fiscal year for the next 5 years.
Can I ask another question, follow-up? Do you know, I guess maybe at some point, like some more information on how United comes up with their increase specific to the city of Ventura? And is that an increase that is seen across, variable based on their customers?
Yes.
Different customers.
As most of that, there's been outstanding engagement between City of United regarding the rate structure. And following the outcome of that application last year, they restructured their rates. And the current ratios between municipal and agriculture are at 1.2 to 1 miles. 1.2, that's right. And so these rate increases are seen across customer classes.
All customers, the similar rate
Yes.
increase?
Now the rate, the ratio between the rate for municipal users, farmers, and agricultural versus 1 to 1. So there's slightly higher for municipal users. The reason the range is really 35 to 50% range because the different there's different zones. But depending on which well we're coming from, we pay a combination of all those zones. Different wells. We can provide additional information.
Okay.
If you want to get more details.
Yeah, at some point I'd like some more information on that, just interesting for one. I had just a comment too on the presentation. Again, a lot of information and appreciate this to digest, and I'm trying to find an example of it, but in a lot of the graphs where you're comparing the city of Ventura to other neighboring municipalities and the increase over time, given different scenarios, I'd appreciate it. Just a comment, I think it would have been easier for me to follow along if you kept city of Ventura in the same order location on the graph. I know it moved there on the x-axis depending on the increase in where we fell, but that actually made it a little harder for me to compare over time, year to year. But keeping it in one spot, I think, has been easier and to follow along. And let's see. Another question I had is the guidance on affordability and a 2% for wastewater or a combined 4% increase for median household income being considered a manageable increase. I'm wondering, where does that guidance come from?
So that goes up, it goes up, this is 1997, the SCA financial capability system. It was originally intended to try and estimate if the agency and the agency that use the transition towards basically trying to approach would estimate if the agency's ways to forward engage that capital to comply with the PA.
Has there been any further studies since then? Did only one kind of guidance come out or specific to California or?
So it last 10 years, that's 20, and again, takes the median, breaks it down. So right, looking at lows. And they're 20 saying regular household data, data, building data, other essential services, so cost of living, yes, reasonably, and trying to not take such a high level approach is that 2% in each line. Looking at hours worked at minimum wage, another indicator is important as well. Indicators that I've showed. There's also the utility scale financial indicators, and generally those are put as kind of a matrix to say what's the financial indicator, low, medium, or high burden, residential, low, medium, or high, and the student volume.
And is this more detailed or alternative affordability studies? Is that something that would be investigated in the rate study? That we can request further investigation of during that time? That's, I guess, a question to you and or to staff.
So that would be a note that we would make to provide in the scope for the RFP where into form the rate study.
Thank you. That's my questions for now.
I just have a few questions. First of all, just your water demands obviously impact the all the rates and all of that. I assume you're just using an average year situation, water demand, not a drought or so. Yeah, I was just thinking of Commissioner spoke the other day about the fact that we've had some wet years and demands are down. So we've got to, obviously you can't run 14 scenarios, so I'm not suggesting that, but I just want to make sure I understood the basis of it. I'm thinking like a counselor. And one of the questions that came up when we were there, I was at the board meeting when we presented, got into a long discussion about price elasticity and demand, which is a very complicated item. I actually did my master's thesis way back 19 or whatever on it. I know there's a lot of complications. Have you been able to address that for them? Just to, because I'm thinking about down the road, not so much for me. I think what you're doing here and looking at what the costs are and breaking it down in a more granular level makes a lot of sense to me, but it doesn't say elasticity. So, and for me, elasticity, when I'm seeing the neighborhoods that I walk my dog all over, is there's two approaches to addressing the cost of water. One is the people who have money put in different landscaping or artificial grass. The other people just let it go to weeds. So it's just sort of interesting. You can tell kind of, because it costs a lot of money to change out your yard. So different situation. I guess the other question I would have is a counselor said, you've just told me that the price just went up again on this project. You mentioned in there that you're looking at the forecast date when those things are going to occur. Did you build inflation into those also, or is that another sensitivity analysis that is another run that you have to do. I know how hard this is being a consultant. One time you showed somebody one of these and they said, well, now that you've done that, just add these 5 other ones. But do you feel like you address that, I guess?
Sure, so. Last. So as far as cost increases for Ventura or Ventura or and looking at our cost components are escalated in 6% per year.
But some of them, as we recently studied, are bid out, you know, the cost, some items are further out. And so you're escalating those at about 6%.
Yes, we're also escalating the non-venture water field standard capital program for everything else for water transportation. Those, I think, are per year, which we visit. Like I said, we have seen increased capital inflation in the last several years, on the order of 6 to 10% per year. Coming into COVID. So that would be 6%. Obviously, we have an escalation on all our other supply, our sampling, costs, and power. Elasticity. That is, we did not address that with council. It's come more and more recently. I think it's very tricky because there's some academic research, there's limited, at least my experience is limited studies on elasticity for specific agencies. I'm actually part of one right now. We have a partner who's doing the elasticity piece. There's so many components that go into it. And you think about other causal effects of demand. You said experienced multiple dry cycles, multiple wet cycles, where the wet cycles depress demand more than the dry cycles. You have messaging, you have social norms, you have passive conservation.
I understand well. Like I said, I actually way back when John Hopkins started doing this work back in the 70s, there's a lot of factors to it. More of my question is, do you have an answer to take to council?
We're not considering any changes in demand based on price elasticity. So we're not saying that if rates double, that demand would go down 20%.
Right.
What we're doing is using informed estimates on future baseline demand based on recent historical wet and dry. Our 5-year baseline of water resource report, and making sure that we feel that that's a conservative estimate, not arbitrarily low and not rosy where you have.
I just want to make sure you had something to answer. That's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is probably for staff with United increasing their pumping charges 35% to 50%. Does that make Casitas water a better option as far as satisfying our need with a better quality of water? And the second part to that is, will we or do we yet have the ability to go from west to east to maybe take up some of that slack and use more Casitas when it's available? Yeah, okay.
So I haven't had a chance to take the new, United rates compared to Casitas rates, but my recollection is that even with 50% increase, we're still looking at, Casitas rates were more than double the United pumping rates. So we're still looking at, it still being, less expensive.
Okay,
than
so
Casitas were.
so United is still a better deal for the east side.
Yeah, and then as cost of living factor in the water supplies are balanced for priority.
Okay, also reading that the 24, 25, and 26 years, we have a set amount of water that we must purchase from Casitas. Does that kind of offset some of that, or how does that work out? Are we going to get more water for those 3 years based on that agreement, that price?
Yes, so The reason Kevin brought up his presentation is because previously that was not part of our assumptions for purchasing Casitas water. The predetermined minimum purchases are higher than we had assumed previously for these purchases and we had in previous assumptions. Those assumptions were done when we were in restrictions. It's 2,200, 2,400, 2,600 gate fee per year over the next 3 calendar years. And the reason those numbers were negotiated was in order to bring down the per unit price of the increase in use rates.
Okay. And then what's our ability to move water from west to east? Has that improved? I haven't been keeping up with the latest pipeline work.
So west east is no problem. We've been doing that forever, but east west is where we've got our big pipelines. So we're in construction on the mid-west portion of that pipeline. And we are, I think, on target to finish up construction by the end of this calendar year. And then we should be getting ready to start construction. Runs on the land for response currently, but I think we're scheduled to start that construction next year. And I'm not sure if that's another 1 year.
And that's the Telegraph Road, the Mills Road that we're talking about? The Telegraph?
The mid to this portion, they,
Oh, mid to one.
the focal portion, they would go out bid for start construction. on
Okay.
those.
Okay. Next question. Am I wrong in assuming that the city council was pretty opposed to the alternative debt structuring? I've heard it in a couple meetings where that wasn't something they were interested in doing. Is that correct?
The city is opposed to structuring the field loan.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And so this is it's another option, for financing overall, not just the field loan, it's round.
The whole, all of our,
Commissioner, and this will be included in the presentation to city council on June 25th. And this was as a result of work by staff with our team as well as our financial advisors. The financial advisors really came up with this additional option. So this idea hasn't really been presented to city council or the commission yet. So it's being presented to you all tonight and will be presented to city council.
okay.
in June.
I thought I'd heard it in one of their meetings when I was watching from my home. And they were talking about they were not interested in that type of debt structuring, but anyway.
Yes, that was just with regard to this. Related to the.
With you.
the-
Okay. Then just one quick comment. I think city council loves graphs. They like the pretty colors and stuff, but they like to see how we fit within other service agencies. So just a thought for my friend Robert here. Thank you.
And we can, for the previous comment, we can work, get more clear. Codes or boxes or keep it stagnant or ways to make it. Here to track where the city falls and to other agencies.
It comes out beautiful on the slide, but on the paper, if they get a staff report, it's kind of hard to tell. Not as easily as it is on the slide, and those go pretty quickly. So just a thought. Thank you.
I think comment to your regarding comparison to neighboring cities. I would think curious to see city we out there as well. That's possible. Or if you happen to know where they might fall, you can share it now. But I'd be interested to know, considering you talk about affordability in our county and people that that's an interesting comparison.
I don't know.
Okay, you've got a little bit of something for everyone. I like it. There's plenty of data in here if you want to be an alarmist. There's plenty of data here if you want to be a moderate, and it's conservative. Good job. You hit all the bases. And so I like it. First off, start off with, I'm going to call it your slide number 23. There you go. Oh, there you go. This has to do with the alternative debt restructuring, and later in your presentation, you go out to year 2035. My question is there a way to quantify how much does this alternative add to the debt? Well, we're looking at one part of our presentation here for where rates may be in 2030. This goes out through 2062, and it's quite a bit different. So maybe the city council is going to want to have a number as to what does this add to the total debt burden that the city's going to have to carry in order to consider this.
If it's helpful, I'm happy to mention. So when we're looking at comparing cash flows, especially ones that go out to the 2060s, we recommend using present value analysis. So it's bringing those dollars back to today's value, really, because what we're doing with the alternative structuring option is pushing debt service back. So there's savings, if you will, on the front end. Savings meaning your debt service under this alternative is lower than it would be under the slide just before this, the level where each individual series is structured kind of independently of each other. So there's savings on the front end in the sense of lower debt service, but there's higher debt service on the back end, as you astutely noticed. And so what we would do is take it to a present value. So we discount all those cash flows back to 2024 values. And the difference in cost is about 2% of the total present value. In dollar amounts, it's a bit higher because you're adding debt on the back end in the 2060s. But I guess the response would be, you know, $1 in 2024 is worth a lot more than $1 in 2063. But I don't know if that answers your question, Commissioner. But
No, you didn't. But thank you for trying.
okay.
If I go to these two, what you'll see is, look at the y-axis here,
Mm-hmm.
$20 million mark.
Right.
That's about the same in both scenarios, right? Where the total debt would be about $20 million of both of these out to the 2045 mark. So up till that date, both scenarios, you know, if we extend the time horizon to 2035 and 2045, you're going to see that they basically have things would be different once we get beyond that. So, you know, potentially we could extend the model and show a 30 or 40-year horizon. Right now, I think we extended that to 2040. I guess my point would be that in that first, say, 25 years, or excuse me, first 20 years, the debt load is the same. So we look at the 20-year, or the 10-year and 20-year horizon, the debt service, all of this is about $20 million.
Let me try it another way then. I get it. Thank you. City Council has already expressed a desire to not restructure the WIFIA loan. How do we compare apples to apples so that they can have the data in order to say, yes, this is a viable option, or no, this is not a viable option? There is a material change as you take a look at those two bar graphs between the total dollars that are going to be required in order to settle that debt or pay that debt. How do I get them the information so that they can understand it and be able to, I don't want to say rule on it, but make a decision?
Well, I come up to this slide to show again the alternative debt structure, and I know we're on the last few years here, but again, alternative debt or standard debt structuring, we were looking at about 5% increases each year. So in future dollars, if we're just standing here today looking at our cash flow needs over the next 10 years, 5% per year. Another 10 years, they're going to be the same markets when we get beyond next 2025. So if we want to show 30-year horizon, that's when you're going to may be able to appreciate very modest differences between the alternative debt structure.
Okay. Okay. thank you for putting up the slide, Jets, where it's going to go next. As I take a look at this, I have to accept water and wastewater rates are going to go up. Duh. But as I take a look at the variations between the four options, it's not a material amount of money. Where we're talking $4 a month type difference here is how it works out. And so even if you double that with your wastewater, this is not a material amount in a budget. The other side of that, the affordability index for the lowest 20th percentile, now those numbers in which you presented, although it's accurate, are alarmist. And the problem is going to be significantly larger. So trying to temper the alarmist with what to me is a non-material amount, $4 a month, between any of the options. The greater thing is, how do we get the message that rates are going to go up, and but how we go about doing it is not going to materially impact it. Please clarify or make a bigger announcement as to, on your slides somewhere, what is your assumed inflation for just general stuff? And what is your assumed construction inflation going forward for the out years? In the beginning of your presentation, you see how numbers moved 30, 40% in 1 year. Of course, people are going to want to attack on that. And how can we do rates or do this project at that amount? We have to get a better understanding as to what is your assumptions and how this is built. So I don't know if you want to do one slide with all of your assumptions listed as to what fed into each one of these analyses. So someone can refer to that back and forth. I'll leave that to you to figure out. But again, understanding what are the assumptions that go into it are key for the ability to accept the message that you're presenting to us and council. Finally, as we get to the back here and we start taking a look at whereabouts are we with the other water systems, the other municipals, slide 35, 34, 35 and all that. I'm actually okay with what you did. I'm fine with it. I know it's the bar is moving, and really when you get out there in year 2030 and all that, we're really guessing as to what the other utilities are doing, but I think you nailed it. The colors are a little muted on paper. I don't know. I gotta trust that one. But you nailed it. So with that, that's the end of my comments. Anybody else want to pipe up for a second round? Go for it.
I got a question. We haven't talked about the state interconnect. Is that somewhere in the background lurking, or is that built into this somehow, or what? That's what, 3 years off before we start construction, I'm assuming. What's the plan for that? Is there going to be a surprise 3 years from now?
Yes. State water.
I'll let Ron, if you guys need different to say, but, the 100% design is nearly done for state water project. So they should have a revised cost estimate on that soon, and then, we won't have final, we'll have more updated costs until we, go to bid. That'll be, what we send out, and then, we'll be coming back to you in planning on June. First state water project update, but we date of where we are. Like I said, design is in the state for review. Coming in soon, and we're working on coordinating the schedule for starting construction.
Okay, I got one more quick question. 30, 60, 100% designed. So at what point is the cost for construction? Can you say it's really close? Is that 100%? Because we talked about 60% design. being pretty close to nailing the cost on the head. Does that account for increases in construction costs at 100%?
I don't think we're, yeah, so we're not, and I don't think we anticipate seeing a huge increase from 60 to 100. I'm seeing no rate. There's a change. And then the 100%, that's what we'll use, for the last bit of construction.
That's great news. Thanks.
Okay. So we have three recommendations here. We take them one at a time or we can do them as a group. I don't really care on this matter on that. Receive this written report and oral presentation by Cellis Financial Consultants. Done. Do we want a motion in order to recommend to city council and direct staff to initiate a new rate study?
I'll make that motion. Do I need to read the entire motion or is that adequate? Okay.
Is there-
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Let's go for just some discussion about initiating a new rate study.
At this time, at this time, can they request some further detail in that rate study to be done on the affordability?
Sure. Okay. Got it. And clarifying. Oh, okay. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Absent, Commissioner Savage,
Yes.
Commissioner Challenger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Appleton,
Yes.
Chair Ryan.
Yes. Okay. And then we have a recommendation to subject me to go before the city council. I volunteer me to go before city council in order
Me, I think, is out of bridge.
in order to talk to them about water rates and the work the commission's done. Does anybody want to make a motion for that?
I'll make that motion to select Commissioner Chair Robert Areno as the Water Commission representative to speak upcoming 25th of June to the City Council meeting regarding project increases and potential impact on project rates.
A motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hear none, roll call vote?
Commissioner Savage,
Yes.
Commissioner Challenger, Vice Chair Appleton,
Yes.
Chair Ryan.
Yes. Okay,
Sorry, I just had a thought. The A's are over there and the S's are over here. Was that on purpose?
Just the way it happened.
split vote. Okay, to general manager's update.
We want to, acknowledge and welcome Alejandra Brona. She is our new executive assistant with Ventura Water, so she's training today. She will be our secretary for the water commission. She will be your point of contact, for all these water commission and following information from meeting staff. Some good news, staff received notice from the community project funding, agency that $500,000 was awarded to Ventura for the state water interconnection, as well as we received notice from the Bureau of Reclamation for the state water interconnection to receive $5 million grant funding from them. Wastewater operations also received notice last week, that our blower upgrade project was completed, had qualified for $172,811 in incentive from us in California Edison. Ventura Water Care, Linda lightly touched on it, the California Coastal Commission approved the LCP amendment for the development for the facility located in Howard Spinnaker. That approval was awarded of this year, so we want to sell further and all our planning process for the municipal clarification facility. We have a long list. Linda had posted some of her specific items. We do have a long list of things going to city council tomorrow. At city council, we will have the professional services agreement. It's the second amendment to site specific. We talked about the planning services of the general program that is headed by the Community Development Department. The second reading of our local government ordinance will take place tomorrow, and then that will become part of our ordinance. I heard that presentation in January of this year. Professional services agreement for the third amendment of engineers to provide the owner advisor services for Ventura Water Care. And the final comprehensive water resources report, which you helped to put together this year, will be presented tomorrow. So that's all. On June 4th, there will be a consent item for the services for the city's Ventura's 9 wells, 7 and 8 pipeline route project. So that will be going in front of city council on June 4th. And then, as we discussed earlier, June 5th, June 25th will be the opportunity for Commissioner for Chair Colby to speak as we present several items for Ventura Water Care, community award for design contract, the alcohol pump station construction and engineering services, Ventura Water Care development artist design and construction management services from the Ventura Water Station project. So we do have a large number of items. As noted, we had some council meetings that were shifted around in council. So it ended up that June 25th was when we can present all of those items to city council. As far as outreach, we are having our summer gear up. We have been some outreach programs this past weekend, the Palooza and Brandon Park, which was well attended. We had a lot of good discussions out there with our citizens. Tomorrow, I will be presenting to the Ventura Senior Men's Group at Quinceañera Pavilion. I will be talking about updates to the Ventura Care Program, state water budget, and our conservation efforts. And then May 19th and 25th this week is Public Works Week. Thank you for listening.
Very well. Thanks.
I've been trying to track it, but your information hasn't released the grant information, and the large grants. I haven't seen it.
We do not have any information on the Ventura grant program.
I'm just surprised it's taking so long. Maybe the way that you do it's supposed to do that or something.
They've already sent out invitations to apply for the next round without being finished with the first round.
I've been tracking it. So just have that money for us.
Okay, is there any commissioner communications? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:02 PM until the next regular meeting on June 24th. Yes. No, 26th.
24.
6:24, regular meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, June 24th. That's what I thought. Okay.
I'm sorry to ask you, where are we in getting new commissioners?
I don't think that's gonna happen.
And now both of those openings are for non. Is that right?
Yeah, one will be also the other one.
You do a two-per during your selection process. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Good day.
Do that. I'd like to hear your spiel. I think this is, I agree with you. Like you said, this is not terrible news for me.